Hello guys, it's me Simo Orohara, and in this video I want to talk again about one of the greatest characters we have ever known. I had previously talked about Ichibei 2 years ago, but this time I want to talk about him with a new vision according to new information, especially since the more a person progresses in reading about several topics, every time new things appear, and this happened to me with Ichibei and with several other Bleach topics. First of all, my choice of this title did not come out of anywhere. Rather, the owner of this title is Uetsu Nimaya. Because in the data book 13 Bleach, Kobo was given information about each character and he put the comments of the other characters who expressed their opinion on that character. And among the characters who spoke about Ichibei was Nimaya, and that was his comments. In fact, Nimaya's words are the most accurate description that can be given to Ichibei. And I'm not talking about the issue of him being the oldest Shinigami and he was living in the original world and the issue of his ability to give names, but it's far from this. I can tell that Ichibei is the one who is currently maintaining the will of the ancestors of noble families, and not Ryu's will as you may think. Ichibei can be considered the one who controls everything that happens in the world. How is that? This is what we will discuss. So, as a start, didn't you think that making Ichibei one of the 5 special weapons is a little bit strange? Because if we took a look at the rest of the 5 special weapons, Aizen Sasuke, Ichigo Kurosaki, Kinpachi Zaraki, and Orohara Kiski, we'll find a common point between the 4. All of them are characters who have shown their strength and abilities in recent centuries, and some of them only in the last years, such as Zaraki Kinpachi, Ichigo, and because the Quincy had been hiding for 1,000 years, they were recording everything that happened. I mean, even Yohaba had previously talked about several things that happened in the Battle of Fake Karakura Town, like talking about the Battle of Aizen and Ichigo, or asking Yamamoto why didn't he ask Inoue Orihime to help him to get his hand treated, meaning he saw things from behind the shadows. Accordingly, he determined the level of danger for each one of them. Like Aizen Sasuke showed a great Ryatsu against both captains and even Ichigo. Based on that, he classified him in the sights of Ryatsu. And Kisuke Orohara was the direct reason of Aizen's defeat with his genius plan. And Zaraki and Ichigo undoubtedly Yohaba watched their battles and knew the extent of their strength, and that's why he placed them among the 5 special weapons. But when we come to Ichibei, how did Yohaba classify him? Yohaba didn't classify him for power. For example, just because he knew that he is the leader of Zero Squad, Yohaba told them as long as that person is the leader of Zero Squad, let's put him among the 5 special weapons. Because if he went on that basis, he would have put Yamamoto, and Yohaba has already talked on this point. I'm not saying that Ichibei is weak or something like that, but Yohaba knew that Ichibei has something unique more than power. Yohaba classified Ichibei based on a prior knowledge, classified him for his wisdom, and this is very important thing. How did Yohaba know that Ichibei has wisdom? Did they fight before? No, there is no evidence that they had fought before. Because Nimaya, when he was about to fight Yohaba, stated that he had no information about Yohaba other than his fight against Yamamoto 1,000 years ago and the fight of his version against Yamamoto in the final arc. Meaning, if Ichibei had previously fought Yohaba, Nimaya would have mentioned that. That's why I'm tending to assume that Ichibei has known Yohaba for a long time. It could be in the original world. I previously used this theory in my fanfiction video where I wrote how I imagine Yohaba's relationship with Ryo, being his biological son, as well as Ichibei's relationship with both Yohaba and Ryo, because a lot of evidence are indicating the possibility that Yohaba was the son of Ryo, like talking at a scene when he said that Ryo could have left a son behind him before he getting sailed, as well as the case that Yohaba wanted to restore the world in which Ryu lived. And it is an indication that Yohaba had previously lived in this world and he saw how it was and how the concept of death didn't exist in it. so he wanted to bring it back. Because if we rewatch the first meeting between Yohaba and Ichibei in the manga, I mean their first clash, the way Yohaba talked with Ichibei, it seemed like it wasn't their first meeting. Even Ichibei, in one of his replies to Yohaba, he said, "You've grown old, but you're still a little troublemaker." And beside that, Ichibei's appearance in the original world enabled him to meet and see even the ancestors of the 5 noble families, meaning that Ichibei personally knew each one of them. And this leads me to talk about something serious related to Ichibei, is that the latter had a hand in what happened to Ryo. Or let me say that Ichibei was colluding with the ancestors of the noble families in what they wanted to do, especially his relationship with Tsunayashiro's ancestor. Yes, it is true that Ichibei said Ryo had personally sacrificed himself in order to divide the original world into 3 worlds, and by his own will he accepted to be cut the way we saw, and he didn't show any kind of resistance. And it seemed like Ichibei has accepted Ryo's will, nothing more and nothing less. But for me, I see it from another angle. What I see is this: Ichibei didn't accept the will of Ryo, rather the will and desires of the Tsunayashiro's ancestor that wanted to implement, and Ichibei was agreed with him and everything he wanted to do. And so let's ask this question: what are the desires of the Tsunayashiro's ancestors? First of all, divide the original world into 3 worlds. Second, use someone to make this operation. And third, this someone should be the center of the 3 worlds, nothing less and nothing more. In other words, we need to make this person useless when it comes to take big decisions. And this is what the Tsunayashiro's ancestor did to Ryo. Because in the novel, the 3rd part, there is an important paragraph that confirms everything I said. When Ikamokodomoi became out of Nemaya's grip and became with Hikone, Ikamokodomoi started fighting some Arankara like Grimijo. And all this, of course, was under Tokinada's plan with the help of Aura. And those events that took place in the Valley of Scream, its news reached the Zero Squad. So that Ichibei went to Nemaya and asked the latter about Ikamokodomoi, and he said, "Oh, it's looked like Ikamokodomoi was stolen." And here Nemaya will reply with something very interesting. He said, "You don't have to ask that question, Ichibei. You see everything that falls in this world." And this was shocking for me. What Nemaya said wasn't a joke, but the truth. Because the novel describes Ichibei in a scene where he was talking about the fight of Ikamokodomoi against the Arankara, like if he was seeing with his own eyes the battle, so that through his eyes he can feel what is going on in the whole world and in every particular region according to his desire. And this ability fits with Kobo's answer in Club Outside when that fan asked him about the blackness that covered the words of the Osan Zangetsu. Was it the doing of Ichibei? Kobo answered yes, and it was Ichibei who did it. And so, if we link the answer with the ability of Ichibei of seeing anything, I can say that because Ichibei knew that Ichigo had Quincy power and was embodied in the form of Yohaba 1,000 years ago, Ichibei forbade him from saying his name, whether it was his real name Yohaba or Zangetsu. The important thing is that Ichibei sees everything that happens, and because of his vision of the world, he takes action according to his wisdom. Therefore, Yohaba classified him as one of the 5 special weapons. So Ichibei sees many phenomena that occur in the world, and according to his wisdom uses the blackness of Ichimonji to control it. For example, he may have thought that it was too early for the Osan Zangetsu to reveal his identity to Ichigo. Therefore, Ichibei decided not to allow him to do so, and that this movement or this action should take place in the royal palace and under the supervision of the Zero Squad. Because in the first place, How did Nimaya know that there is someone inside Ichigo who is the incarnation of Yohaba 1000 years ago? Ichibei no doubt is the one who told Nimaya that Ichigo had Quincy power in the form of Yohaba, and therefore I think one of the reasons for the coming of the Zero Squad to Cereity is to reveal the strength of Ichigo and the threat of the Osan in the Riot Palace, as well as to use Ichigo as a backup card, and we will talk about this point shortly, because we must move to an interesting line in this paragraph. Notice what Nimaya said to Ichibei. Don't you think we should help them? Both the bad boy of Tsunayashiro and that princess of Fallbring are out of control. And Ichibei replied that there is no need for that now, and that their main job is to keep what is at the bottom as it was before, and that's what's important for Ichibei is that the center of the world doesn't change, in the sense that he has no problem in changing even the Gotei 13 system if possible. The important thing is that the Riot Palace and the person who is represents the backbone of the worlds mustn't be in danger. But Ichibei continued by saying, if I will offer a helping hand, it will be for Kyoraku. And notice what he said. It is true that we have a contact with the ancestor of the Tsunayashiro, but this isn't a reason to prefer their grandchildren whom we have never met. And this is very dangerous, guys, because it confirms that Ichibei had close contact with the Tsunayashiro's ancestor, and we all know that the Tsunayashiro ancestor is the one who caused all these bad things to Ryo. And as I told you earlier, that Ichibei, since he had a certain relationship with Tsunayashiro ancestor, it means that he agreed with his policy. And there is another thing. Do you know why Ichibei preferred to help Kyoraku? Why didn't he prefer to help Tokinada, for example? Because Kyoraku was in agreement with Ichibei's decision that if Ryo dies and there is no other backbone, they were going to put Ichigo in that cocoon. That means Kyoraku was also ready to concede to Ichibei for this option. And that's why Ichibei would have preferred to support Kyoraku, who initially accepted the option of making Ichigo a new backbone for the worlds. And Tokinada, although he had mixed intentions, but his intentions were going against the interests of Ichibei and against his ancestors. He wanted to show people in the real world that there is another world called Soul Society and make Hekone the new Soul King, and therefore these are all things that contradict the policy of the ancestors. It can be even said that Ichibei not only accepted to make Ryo as a tool, but even took advantage of Ryo's son, and I mean Yohaba, because he made his remains as the backbones of the worlds instead of his father. So guys, if you gathered all these things that I said in this video, I'm sure it will give you a clear idea that Ichibei is the true ruler of the Soul Society, in that he carries out the commandment of the ancestors of noble families. As long as their grandchildren follow the same path as the ancestors, Ichibei will not move against them. But if anyone else wants to change this system, like Aizen Sosuke for example, Ichibei will confront him. That's why I'm wondering, which party really was Ichibei with? Was he really with Ryo and by his side, or was Ichibei in fact accomplice with the ancestors? And just as Ryo was a victim, Ichigo would have been also one of his victims. So guys, what do you think about Hyosube Ichibei? Tell me in the comments, and see you in my next video.